David Murphy, the former Ranger outfielder, World Series participant, AL champion, joins you now on 105 through the Fan. And a good afternoon to you, sir. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, love being here.
Oh, this is so good. Now, what's it like when things are going well and then you lose a game going into the next one? How's that? Does that change anything for the players?
Yeah, so when I've talked baseball with people over the course of the last few weeks, I keep telling them I'm interested to see how the Rangers react to adversity, because that's a telltale sign of any good team. The Rangers have kind of had smooth sailing so far, and it's not like the other teams have just laid down. They've just played that well. And, I think Tampa beat themselves a little bit, early on with that defense in the first game. You could point to something like that. Houston, obviously, in game 2, that was uncharacteristic to give up all those runs early in the game. So they've been scoring early. They haven't played with many deficits. So you knew it was going to be inevitable that they were going to play from behind at some point, that they were probably going to lose the game. So it finally happened last night. So, yeah, we're going to see how they react. Is it difficult? It can be. But once again, they've had so much success throughout the course of this postseason, and baseball is such a game of failure and adversity that I don't think that they're going to have a problem picking up where they left off, the rest of the postseason.
Do you think they've kind of left that streakiness in their past since they got healthy and, went on this winning streak?
It's possible, but, when you look in that other dugout, we always say as players the rivalry is more for fans, but I would be surprised if both teams are looking in the opposing dugout, and it just makes it's going to make it that much sweeter for the eventual winner, not only to win the ALCS and earn a trip to the World Series, but to beat your divisional foe and an in-state rival. I mean, there is, especially. When you see benches clear, when you see, little dust-ups happen here and there like it did throughout the course of the season, like players remember those types of things, and that'll definitely fire you up when you go head-to-head with them. So I think this is a matchup that everybody in Texas wanted to see. Hopefully everybody on the national stage is enjoying it as well.
Murph, as a former hitter, Seager and Semien have not been their typical selves this series. They're 4 for 25. They have no extra base hits. When you're trying to work out of that slump, what was kind of the key for you, and have you noticed any differences with Seager and Semien in the box, or is it maybe you just chalk it up to good pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good pitching. You don't get this far into the season without having some quality arms, and typically that's going to be your backbone, especially in the bullpen. And then, Verlander, Fromber, Javier. Javier hasn't had the type of year that he's capable of, neither has Fromber. But both of those guys, you know what they're capable of, and Javier is just a monster in the postseason. So he showed it once again last night. It's a game of adjustments. You hear it. It's cliche. You hear it all the time. So the pitchers have made their adjustments. And for the most part, you could make the case that Marcus Semien really hasn't gotten as hot as he could possibly be, and like we saw him during the regular season at all during the postseason. So his best is definitely yet to come. And Seager's just too good of a hitter to be kept down. So, it's a difficult thing for Seager, just because I'm sure – it's a perfect example of all the walks that he drew, and, had a 5-walk game. So most teams are trying to pitch it around him, and I think that's kind of what gets a hitter out of his rhythm a little bit. So I think the main thing that he can do is look for quality pitches, look for strikes in the middle of the strike zone. If you want to simplify it, swing at pitches you're supposed to, and don't swing at the pitches that you're not supposed to.
Murph, is it a situation when you're to the point of the season, though, and maybe you are in a little bit of a slump, or you're not hitting as well? How does the hitting coach go up and say something? How does the bench manage that when you have players that, or do you just say, man, they're going to work their way out of this?
I think they're going to work. And look at the offense as a whole. Like, I know that they only got 6 hits last night, and Josh Young was the majority of the offense, but they still scored 5 runs. And
sure.
So in a losing effort, 5 runs, especially in the postseason against that quality of pitching, that's a great effort. What I love as well is down 5, it's easy for any team to lay down, and they just continue to add on through the course of the later innings. So they continue to show that fight. They continue to put the stress on the Houston bullpen, even though Houston was eventually successful. So, any good team is probably going to win with pitching and defense, and offense is going to come and go. If you have 5 hitters that are hot in the lineup, 4 of them are not going to be hot. So, it's just kind of throughout the course of the season, throughout the course of the postseason, guys are going to get hot and cold. And so, last night you can look at the bottom of the lineup between Lowe, Young, and Taveras, even though Taveras didn't get a hit. 7, 8, 9 went 4 for 10. And so that's a positive there. Yes, Simeon Seager went hitless, but I think you're not going to expect these guys to just completely get 2 or 3 hits every game. Especially, look at the bottom line. Seager's hitting .333 for the postseason with an OPS over 1,000. So the results are still there.
What did you think about Scherzer last night?
There was talk before the game that somebody coming back from that type of injury that quickly was unprecedented, and then you throw his age in there. I mean, it's hard not to factor that in. So I think, it's kind of one of those situations where you got Bruce Bochy calling the shots, and he's made so many incredible decisions throughout the course of his Hall of Fame career that if Scherzer goes out there and throws the ball well, he looks like a genius. But you can't say you're surprised at the same time. Everybody was saying the slider wasn't there. And I think it's just a perfect example. It's hard to take a month off and then go stand on the mound and, about the biggest stage of baseball short of the World Series and expect to be the same guy that you've always been. So, you wouldn't put it past him because the pedigree and the quality of competitor that he is and what he's capable of. But baseball's a hard game, and when you haven't seen game action in a month, it's hard to just go out there against that type of lineup and be successful. So, similar to the way that Eovaldi got thrown in there in early September without a rehab start against that lineup, Scherzer dealt with the same thing, and hopefully he's able to continually work his way back up. But that was the right situation to do it. The Rangers were up 2-0, so they had a little breathing room. So why not throw him in there?
Murph, on that point, when you get to Game 7, would you rather have Scherzer in his second start or somebody else on short rest?
If we get to Game 7, you can call me back and ask me that.
That's a day.
I love it. It is David Murphy here with you on 105.3 The Fan. What's your favorite moment in your memory when you think about playing in the CS?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard to top. It's hard to top the first one against the Yankees and just Feliz's pitch to A-Rod being frozen, just the celebration that went on right after that, knowing that the Texas Rangers had never been to a World Series before, and finally breaking that barrier. Obviously, didn't get the job done then or in 2011, but. There's so many different ways to look at it. My favorite player of all time was Ken Griffey Jr., and he never played in a World Series, and I got to play in two. And we were in striking distance of winning one of them and just didn't get the job done. So most players are never even in that position to begin with. So I'm thankful for the opportunities I had, even though, everybody remembers, just coming up short.
Oh, yeah, but there were so many good times to be had, and you just talking about it just brings back all those good thoughts. And it was great to see Kinsler and Dutch last night, your battery for the first pitch. Have you been hearing from your former teammates?
No, I mean, here and there throughout the course of the season. It's great, seeing the first pitches, and even – I have so much going on during the week. It's hard for me to just sit down and watch a full game. But having the game on, once they won in Houston and seeing, Michael Young in the background behind Chris Young in there, it's just it's great seeing a lot of my former teammates just having their blueprints on this team a little bit. It may not be in as much of a direct way, but the fact that a lot of us are still around and part of the team in some way, shape, or form, and just contributing or there in spirit. It's just and it's a great organization, and for me, it's the organization that's closest to my heart. So just always wish them the best.
Well, Murph, you brought up Michael Young. It's his birthday today. and he is going to throw out the first pitch, and Colby Lewis is going to catch it, another two of your former teammates. Do you have maybe a memory that stands out to you about either Michael or Colby?
Oh, man, so many of Michael, just his professionalism, his leadership, big hit. I remember the grand slam that he hit against Tampa. You know, he had waited his entire career to play postseason baseball, and I believe that was in Game 2 against the Rays, so that was probably his second postseason game. I want to say that he hit an opposite field home run in the World Series. So just to see, you know, obviously we were all happy as a team to get to the World Series, but we were so happy for him after all that time as a Ranger to be able to play. And then Colby, I mean, you know, arguably, if you know, obviously, you mentioned Derek Holland. I mean, his game against the Cardinals that he threw was probably the best pitched game in postseason history for a Ranger. But if you look at the overall track record for Colby, you could probably say that he is the most successful postseason pitcher in Rangers franchise history. And I love that because you're talking about a guy that, you know, came up in the organization throwing in the upper 90s and then went to Japan, came back, was throwing 91, 92 with good off speed, and still was able to be successful with that type of stuff. They say power pitching always wins in the postseason, but that's not always the case, and he was a perfect example of that.
Murph, as a fellow outfielder yourself, how sexy was that Tavares play at the wall last night?
That was great. You know, the funny thing is there was just no panic. I mean, he's a smooth player as it is, but I had that one on, and the second that left Jordan's bat, I knew it had a chance, and he's just cool, calm, collected, goes up there. I showed the highlights to my son, and, you know, it was a great catch, obviously, but so many players, you know, they make a play like that just look better or harder because they make it look a little bit more dramatic. And there was just, like, he made that. That's a really difficult play, especially watching the replay. I mean, he went up pretty good over the wall, and he just made it look easy.
Yeah, I don't know the last time I saw somebody that high over the wall with the Rob. I mean, that was terrific. Now, speaking of you know, the wall and the dimensions of the park, roof open tonight. Does that change anything, the way a ball flies or anything like that in your experience?
You know, we'll see. The roof hasn't been open very much, especially in games that I've been working. I haven't dug into the numbers a whole lot. I know that we've talked about it here and there throughout the course of the years. I think it does help a little bit offensively, but in terms of their approach as players and what they're going up there to do, I don't think it's not going to change a single bit of what they're trying to do. So, you know, we'll see how the results play out. But, you know, this is the beautiful weather time of year here in DFW and a lot of Texas. So why not take advantage of it? Because baseball's an outdoor sport.
Yeah.
Hey, except in the summertime.
Yeah, in Texas, yes. I prefer the indoor there for a couple of months especially. Now, Creed was here last night, Murph. When you were playing, who was a celeb that was in the stands that you were like, oh, my goodness, and it did get your attention because it was cool or you wanted to impress them or whatever?
Well, I'm not sure about DFW exactly, but I will tell you when we were playing the Yankees in the ALCS in 2010, they would kind of pan the camera around on the Jumbotron in between innings. And Michael Jordan was at a game, and I thought, man, I was thrown in the outfield, I believe with Josh Hamilton in between innings, and they put Michael Jordan up on the board, and I was just like, that kind of stopped me dead in my tracks for a minute because, you know, he was always a childhood hero, as he was to pretty much everybody of that generation. And I never had a chance to go watch him play live. I always wanted to, and sure enough, he's there in the stands watching my team play in the ALCS, and I thought that was a really cool moment.
That is the peak right there, dude. Jordan came to your game.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, we thank you so much for your insights and your story, your stroll down memory lane. Have a blast watching this thing, and maybe we'll do it again next week talking World Series. What do you say?
Yeah, let's get on the phone again. Enjoy it, guys, and y'all enjoy the game as well.